So they're going to take their vacuum meter, if they have one, which it's recommended that they do, and they're going to remove the blue plastic protector that's on there. They're going to plug their plug onto the vacuum probe. They're going to take their meter, they're going to turn it to the DV6R setting, because a lot of these meters have multiple settings on them, and then they're going to take a vacuum reading. This specific section shows that it's 0 microns. The goal for any of this pipe is to be under 20 microns. So that means this section is good. Okay? We replace our blue plastic cap protector back on the So then the next thing that we need to do in the process of receiving these pieces of pipe in, they should remove every cap that's on the pipe. They need to inspect the sealing surfaces. In other words, the outside of the flange here. They need to look down inside of the bayonet and ensure that there's no debris or damage down inside of the bayonet cavity. Okay? You should always also try to keep these protectors in place until the actual installation takes place, because it prevents damage from happening. So the same thing with the male bayonet. They need to remove the V-band clamp. They need to remove the protector that's provided on the bayonet. They need to remove the blue plastic cap off of the end. They need to take, this is recommended to always use some type of plastic, either a credit card or something similar to this badge, to remove the O-ring. You slide it into the back side of the O-ring and gently coax it out of the groove. You don't want to use anything sharp that could scratch that surface. So we take the O-ring off of there, and then we inspect, again, the sealing surface. We inspect the inside of the O-ring groove where it goes, and we inspect the end of the bayonet to make sure that there isn't any damage on the end or any of this part of the assembly. Okay? Then we take our O-ring and we inspect it to be sure that there's no damage to the O-ring itself. We take a very sparing amount of the Dow Corning vacuum grease and we rub it on the O-ring all the way around till the O-ring is shiny. Never fill this gap with grease. Never put any grease or anything on the nose or any of the bayonet. At that point, the O-ring is put back on the section and seated into the O-ring groove. The two pieces are then assembled together, taking care not to bang these ends. The engagement takes place. You'll note that there's a fair amount of slop and movement that can take place. That's normal. So then you slide these to a point where you can feel the nose contact the female inside of the bayonet. Once you feel that contact take place inside, there's a slight amount of adjustment that you have to make until you feel the two sections come together approximately a quarter of an inch more. That's telling you that the nose has engaged in the female. At that point, the two sections need to have pressure applied to each section until they slide together like that. And that's what you should see and hear as the two pieces go together, that they slide together. So you find the hole at the end of the bayonet nose, and once you find that, you make slight adjustment till you get a quarter inch more travel going in, and at that point then a pressure is applied to both sections to have them come together. When these are being assembled, absolutely no rotation should take place. If you rotate these assemblies, chances are, because of the tight nature of the nose piece fitting in the female, they can gall, which will cause the section to lock up. Once the section is put together and we have that, we know we're tight enough that we can see our gap is very minimal, we take our band clamp, we apply our band clamp to the actual section. One key note on these band clamps when they're being installed, this side with the bolt section should always be downward facing. That allows the gap between the two to never be able to allow water to be able to run inside of there, because much of this piping can be installed outside. Water expands when it freezes, it can cause issues with that joint. So we always want the opening on the band clamp facing down. At that point, these band clamps are tightened first by hand, and then they're tapped on. The outside edge of this band clamp is tapped on with a dead blow hammer all the way around, and continue to snug the band clamp bolt up until very little additional tightening can happen. At that point, a torque wrench is used to torque the nut on the end of this band clamp. That information can again be found in the installation manual, and will lead you to know what the correct torque that should be on the nut on the band clamp. After the complete installation of the system, it is recommended another vacuum reading be taken on each section to ensure that no damage has happened during the installation process.